Tipito is engaged with relocation and expatriate consultants. That's what they do. And if you need to know more about what they do in their service, you can meet with Wamboi and her team over there. The next vendor we have is Maurice Mwendwa. Maurice is a senior sales manager with Wilston Homes. Thank you so much for being here and for being a part of this event and sponsoring the event. Please engage with Mr. Mwendwa and his team. They are doing amazing work, home improvement, and businesses here in North Carolina. Something that our Secretary of State continues to advocate for, building millions of businesses for many years. Thank you so much for being here again. Thank you. I am here, again, my name is Isaac Kuria, and I'm the committee chair of the Nairobi Raleigh Sister City. I'm joined by many colleagues who work closely with me and as a team, and we are led by our amazing president, Mary Claire Freeman, who will join me on stage so she can briefly bring our ambassador who will, and she is running, and because Kenya, we are known for running, and she has to run. Please, Mary Claire.
I am very grateful to be here and very grateful to be in front of all of you. Some of you I've seen before, some of you have not, but I just want to reiterate this. Raleigh Sister Cities, our purpose is to do this, is to meet you all, see you all, and to know you all interpersonally in a way that like normal day does not. And we want to build personal relationships. We want to get to know each other's cultures. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here. I'm sitting in the back talking to teenagers. I feel like I'm 15 again. So that's great. I'm not 15. But in reality, I think this is a wonderful opportunity for all of us to be here, and especially to hear from our wonderful representatives. We've got our Secretary of State, Elaine Marshall, here, which is incredible. We have our ambassador to Kenya, from Kenya to the United States, Ambassador Amayo. What a chance to just meet people and get to know each other. And so I'm so grateful to see you all. I'm so grateful to be here. I wish I could dance and just like be excited, but it's too formal because it's, I want some steps. But I love you all, and I'm so happy to be here with you all. So thank you.
All right, and now without any further ado, here comes someone who really do not need any introduction. He is the ambassador, the Kenyan ambassador to the United States of America. Ambassador, Your Excellency, Lazarus Amayo. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Isaac. The Honorable Elaine Marshall, the Secretary of State of North Carolina, the leadership of the state, friends of Kenyan and Kenyans that are here, ladies and gentlemen, almost 9 o'clock. And I don't think I'm going to keep you for long. And for those of us who are at the Executive Mansion just an hour or so ago, we acknowledge that in our midst we have the Secretary of State, a great person, someone who loves Kenya and loves Kenyan Americans, and has done a lot for us today. Isaac had asked that the Secretary of State should introduce me, but I told him no. She introduced me at the function at the Executive Mansion. But at Kenya National Day celebrations, she's our guest. I'm the one to introduce her. And so, before I make any remarks, may I, with your permission, take this opportunity to acknowledge with appreciation the contribution that the state of North Carolina does and continue to do for Kenya and for promotion of Kenya-US relations. And for what even they did today, and the time, resources, and even ideas that they have put in place to help us have the function headed by Mary Claire and Madam Brian, Connie Bryan and Isaac Kuri and the entire team in the sister cities relations between Nairobi and Raleigh. And so, whom am I talking about here? I saw the note, I'll not read it all, but permit me just to mention a few things about the great person we're having in our midst this evening. The Honorable Elaine Marshall, Secretary of State for North Carolina. In 1996, the Secretary of State, Elaine, became the first woman, it's a pace sector here, the first woman elected to a statewide executive branch office in North Carolina, and has served as the president of the National Association of Secretaries of State. A former teacher, we share that in common, not only with her, but also with, I'm not seeing Connie here. Connie, where are you? I saw Connie somewhere here. A small business owner, a private practice attorney, Secretary Marshall was elected to the North Carolina State Senate before rising to statewide office. Under Secretary Marshall's administration, more than 1.8 million businesses have been formed, and she has pioneered e-commerce government, protected investors and intellectual property owners, and promoted financial capital formation in North Carolina. The list could go on and on. She has received numerous state and national awards, including the North Carolina Order of the Long Leaf Pine Award, presented by Governor Cooper in 2022, and in 2022, Champion for Children Award from the North Carolina Foundation for Public School Children. The list is long. That is a great person we are having in our midst, and I'm taken up by her humility. She is very humble. And mind you, from 4 o'clock today, Secretary Marshall has been with us on matters related to Kenya. Simpigie makofi kidogo. Kwa wale ambao hawajasahau Kiswahili, situmpigie makofi tena. Elaine, that was just to tell you that in addition to English, which is the medium of instruction in our schools, but the second official language, we have 2 official languages. We have Kiswahili and English. And then the national language is also Kiswahili. And so I was speaking to them in Kiswahili so that you would wonder as to what is this other language they're talking about. Anybody in Kenya, on the average, will be speaking in the mother tongue, national language, Kiswahili and English, as the other language. And so, with those few remarks, may I kindly request Secretary Marshall to address Kenyans, Kenyan Americans, and friends of Kenya. Karibu means welcome, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. It is an honor and a privilege to be here with you, diaspora of Kenya, who are celebrating a very important date for you, the independence of your country. Only 60 years ago, I'm actually older than that, so I'm older than your country. But we are so glad that this celebration is happening for multiple reasons. Number one, while I do diplomacy and the ambassador does diplomacy, the real essence of solid, reliable diplomacy is people-to-people diplomacy. As we know each other, as we meet our neighbors, as we come to understand the people that we work with, whether it's on a commission, whether it's at our workplace, whether it's at our church, knowing each other in our hearts, that is true diplomacy, and that is what Raleigh should get great credit for with its many sister city relationships, and particularly this one as we're celebrating here tonight. I don't know what brought you to North Carolina, but I want to say thank you on behalf of the state, on behalf of Governor Cooper, on behalf of myself. You could have picked any other state, but you chose North Carolina. I have spent the better part of my working career trying to make North Carolina a place that is attractive and welcoming for businesses, people, children, people who need health care, people who want good recreation, although you have some fine tourism and recreation in Kenya here. So, but North Carolina is an open door. We are a place of opportunity. That might be, if I ask each one of you individually why you came here, you might have a specific little twist to that, but you saw opportunity here. Opportunity to raise your family, opportunity to get an education, opportunity to enjoy the kind of life that you want. So I thank you as a citizen of North Carolina, from the remaining people of the North Carolina, thank you for being here. The tapestry that we are developing in North Carolina of many, many nationalities is what's going to make us strong. When we have a lot of ideas at the table, a lot of voices at the table, we make better policy. So I'm just delighted to be sharing this evening with you and this wonderful celebration that you're having. North Carolina is a state of firsts. I don't know if you have thought about that. The first colony came here. The first civilized colony was in North Carolina. The first public university, the University of North Carolina, first in the nation. The North Carolina Symphony is the first public symphony. The North Carolina Museum of Art is the first public museum of art in this country. We're also the home of barcodes, Pepsi Cola, and a couple other interesting things. But we are where first flight took place, on the shores of eastern North Carolina at Kitty Hawk. Man first went 120 feet on that day. On December, it is now 1903, so 120 years ago, man first flew. And just think now how we travel, how we do commerce, how we do transportation. It started here in North Carolina. This is my first activity with your community, but it will not be the last. And I want to tell you what we really believe. It's embodied in our North Carolina toast. It says, "Here's to the land of longleaf pine, the summer land where the sun doth shine, where the weak grow strong and the strong grow great. Here's to down home, the old North State." Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Secretary of State, and be blessed. We look forward to continued collaboration with you in promotion of matters of mutual interest to North Carolina and to Kenya and the Kenyans that live or have chosen North Carolina as their home. Isaac, I don't think I need to say much, but for purposes of being fair to those that were not with us today, I'll repeat a few, because I started relatively very early today. I can see on Tiri here and the team, we attended a church service this morning and then went in the afternoon to the executive mansion for the celebrations that took place here. And now we are in the climax, specifically of Kenya at 60. I see here quite a number of friends and Kenyans we have been relating with and even getting invitations to come and join you here in North Carolina. Naona Professor hapo hapa. Nimekuwa naye hata naona dada ya Ambassador Jane Waigenda. Jane is a colleague who was visiting North Carolina and she said, no, you must come to North Carolina. Kule kuku. But she has already left for Kenya, but here I am in North Carolina. Also in recognition of the great potential that lies in this state for us as Kenya and Kenyans already in the United States. As I mentioned at the executive mention this afternoon, Kenya and the United States enjoy a warm and cordial multifaceted relations. US having taken the initiative to recognize Kenya upon declaration of independence in 1963, 12 of December. This was followed by establishment of full diplomatic relations on the 3rd of March 1964 at ambassadorial level, with the US sending to Kenya Ambassador Atwood and Kenya sending to the United States Honorable Burudi Nawera. From there we have had long and mutually beneficial relations, which, as I indicated at the executive mention, those relations were upgraded in 2018 to that of strategic partnership during the meeting between former President Trump and former President Uhuru Kenyatta. And in this partnership, strategic partnership, we developed pillars that are to guide as a framework for collaboration between our two countries. The first one being the economic pillar, which deals with matters of trade, investment and tourism. The second one being the pillar on defense cooperation. The third one being on democracy, human rights, governance and civilian security. The fourth one being cooperation on multilateral and regional issues. And the fifth one was cooperation in the field of health. We subsequently added the sixth one, which is now cooperation on matters of climate change and environment. And just as a summary, because time doesn't allow me to go into what we are doing in all those 6 pillars, one is to acknowledge with appreciation that the United States is our largest export destination. It accounts for 10% of Kenya's exports. And in these, we largely export to the United States textile and apparel, which account for 65% of our exports. Then we have coffee and tea. We have macadamia nuts. We have titanium. We have flowers too, but the prospects are much higher. The potential for selling into the American market is much higher. The value of our bilateral trade was, for example, in 2022, we exported goods worth $777 million, and we imported goods from the US worth around $832 million. From the US, largely it is machinery, the electricals, the mechanical aspects of plastics, even wheat. But we would like to create more awareness of products that Kenya can export to the US. We would like to have more value addition to products that we sell to the US. And we need you as a diaspora. We need you as friends that have visited Kenya to help us in this quest to increase both the value and volume of our trade with the United States. That is why I'm here with the commercial attaché or trade attaché, Mr. Monga. But Robert, can you stand up so that next time when I'm not here, at least I can see you. Robert is here to promote economic relations with the United States. And I cannot forget to mention that I'm also here with my wife, Nelly. Madam, tafadhali simama. So all those are going towards the economic pillar. Again, worth mentioning, and because you have influence, currently Kenya and 38 other African countries are trading with the United States under the framework of AGOA, African Growth and Opportunity Act, which allows eligible states from Africa to sell duty-free, quota-free products into the United States. AGOA is set to expire in 2025, but negotiations are ongoing for its renewal. We hope it will be renewed, and when it is renewed, we can continue with it. Because apart from those selling petroleum and other minerals, Kenya is actually the largest exporter or non-mineral based export to the US under AGOA. But we have negotiations also with the US for a bilateral strategic partnership, for strategic trade and investment partnership with the US, a framework for continuity. We can use AGOA, but we can also use STIP if AGOA is not there, so that our investors have certainty that investing in Kenya, you are guaranteed, of course, many years of stability and the law that protects your investment. Not also forgetting that the US is also our largest source of tourist arrivals. Most tourists going to Kenya, majority by nationality, are from the US, would wish to have more visiting. And we thank you in the diaspora because you have taken many Americans who are your friends to visit Kenya. And thereafter, many of them have gone back on their own as a repeat tourist, and many have also invited their friends to visit. Please visit and encourage more for them to visit, but please also allow your children who are born here to visit Kenya. Otherwise, if you don't make them get used to Kenya now, later on the network might not be as good as it is now, even as we are very proud of you for diaspora remittances on our forex. Majority of them are for socioeconomic support. But you see, that may be popular with those of you who are born in Kenya and then you came over. Lakini wale ambao wamezaliwa hapa, unless you encourage and do some investment that will make them go to Kenya, some of them tayari wameanza kuuliza, sasa tunawapatia pesa si waendelee kufanya kazi pia. Not knowing the reason why and the bond and the links that you're having with them. On matters of defense and others, we cooperate well with the US. On democracy, governance, and civilian security, we work closely with the US government, even on counterterrorism. On regional and multilateral arena, we engage based on our interests a lot with the US, even when we were in the UN Security Council the last 2 years. On health is another area where we cannot fail to acknowledge with appreciation that the US remains our largest bilateral partner on matters health, on HIV and AIDS, on malaria prevention and treatment, on tuberculosis, and on reduction programs to reduce infant and maternal mortalities. And so the US is a partner and a friend, but much happens as a result of the engagements you have with the authorities, the business persons in the United States for promotion of Kenya as a trustworthy destination for investment, which promises good returns on investment, and Kenya as a country with a large market access for any investor who chooses Kenya as the landing bay in Africa. That apart from the 50 million people, you can be able to reach the larger over half a billion people that you have in the expanded East African community, which now includes also Democratic Republic of Congo, South Sudan, Somalia, in addition to the traditional Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi, and even the larger African continental free trade area. So, an American investor coming to Kenya has Kenya and East Africa as a market where they sell goods as if they are locally made in Kenya itself. But we also have market access to European market under the Economic Partnership Agreement with the EU. Goods that originating from Kenya, preferential access to Europe under that Economic Partnership Agreement. And so there are many things we cannot exhaust. Today is a day for celebration, and only to reassure you that Kenya has laws to protect foreign investments, specific act, protection of foreign investment. Administrations will not wake up in the morning and say, I'm taking over this business that was brought by an American. The Kenyan Constitution, the Kenyan laws protect that. And on labor relations, we have a specific labor and employment court that is able to arbitrate on disputes that may arise between employees and employers. And all we need, Secretary of State, we have a large pool of highly trained Kenyans that would be able to not to disappoint you, because currently you have seen the output, the performance of the Kenyans that live in North Carolina. We have many of them that would be willing to come. Like Madame said, that her father employed or engaged nurses, and the nurses that the father had were from Kenya. They are still living to date, and it will prove what your father said in those days, that you are very hardworking, experienced, dedicated nurses. And as we are celebrating today, I was supposed to join the Kenya Nurses of Kenya Nurses Association of America, having the meeting in New Jersey to celebrate their successes, a membership of 1,200 of them, just for that group alone. But in recognition of the great contribution that the diaspora makes in terms of investment skills and the likes, the government also entered into negotiations with NCLEX, the licensure for testing of nurses, and Pearson, and we're happy to report that Pearson or NCLEX will start operating their office, regional office, based in Nairobi, Westlands, from the second week of January, and that to me is a major breakthrough, and we look forward to having this opportunity and testing of our nurses to access the US, where the market is large, but the Kenyans are equal to the task. Last but not least in this regard is to say, please help us to serve this very, very, very important aspect. Kenya is ready for investment. The government has gone out of its way to create a conducive environment, making it easy to do business in Kenya. And we were among the first, actually not among them, we were the first, so to speak, the country to fully liberalize its foreign exchange regime in sub-Saharan Africa. And we allow investors to bring in their money and take out their money. And in this regard, we hope that you can bring home the American friends to see Africa, because there's no safari without Kenya. Just like I said, what are we known for? Among many other things, yes, in America we also known for the marathon. That whether it is Boston, Chicago, or New York, or LA, any marathon you talk about, Kenyans will always win. So it is only news if we don't win. And just like we also have the best tea and the best coffee around, but we'd like us to diversify and have the basket composed of many other items and not the limited ones we have. And so let me stop at this stage and request Isaac to continue the program because you didn't invite me to hear my voice for a long time. But to say thank you very much for the initiative to assemble as Kenyans and your friends from the US, from North Carolina, to celebrate Kenya at 60. We look forward to many more. And at the executive mansion, we did a small comparison between even North Carolina and Kenya. North Carolina is bigger than Kenya GDP-wise. GDP-wise, North Carolina is worth around $600 billion. We are only worth about 110 billion US dollars, right? But in terms of area, North Carolina is about 53,000 square miles. We are 224,000 square miles. Give a visual picture. Kenya is bigger than France, but Kenya is slightly smaller than Texas. So that is how we look like. We are bigger than Germany, bigger than France, but smaller than Texas. But economy-wise, you are sitting on an economy which is bigger than any African country. That's North Carolina alone. And so with those many remarks, Secretary of State, ladies and gentlemen, be blessed. And once again, we thank the organizers for going out of their way to make this occasion a successful one. We just had a similar Kenya 60 celebrations in Atlanta, Georgia last week. And there'll be another one in Dallas, Texas on Saturday the other week. These are a series of celebrations to mark 60 days of Kenya's independence. God bless you all, and mpaka tuonane tena na Mungu awabariki. Na tafadhali mfanye mazoezi kidogo ili kuimba nyimbo, kuimba national anthem, wimbo wa taifa kwa Kiswahili, isiwe shida kwenu. Kama ni shida kwenu, sasa watoto wetu watakuwa namna gani? Nataka muimbe na jinsi nani? Raha. Siona raha hapa. Hata kurukaruka sio shida. Hapo nana. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, thank you so much.